So learning how to draw anatomy frankly can be a frustrating endeavor. There are so many muscles, so many tendons, attachment points. I know for me at least, looking at a diagram is just not what I want to do 100% of the time. Sometimes I just want to cheese the game and draw something with a cheap visual shortcut that makes it look like I know what I'm doing when I actually don't. So this video is going to be all about quick and cheap tricks for how to draw legs. So in my last video about drawing legs, I talked a lot about the sartorius muscle and how I use it as a guideline to draw the leg. This first visual trick is more like a visual yellow brick road for you to follow as you try and draw legs for yourself, and it's kind of the way that I treat it personally. So what I do first is to draw the C curve, and it's kind of going to look like a fish hook but without the hook. Then from there, simply I'll just continue this line by drawing another line straight down like this. So now we're left with what looks almost like an S-curve, but more like a cane of some sort. Now for me, as rudimentary and brain dead as this may seem, what's so helpful about it is that it's essentially going to act as the framework for the entire leg and helps me draw the rest of it while just following that original line that we made. Every aspect of the leg can almost be measured by just that original line, which helps with the placement of the various bumps and rhythms of the leg. And so here we have a very simple interpretation of the leg, and now that we have this, I can see that right at the end of that hook is going to be where the knee is located, and that the line coming off of it straight down obviously would be the entire lower leg. Plus we know now that wherever that line stops will always be where the ankle bones are located. So even if I just placed another line running down the leg from the very top, you'll see that the leg is almost just one really thin rectangle, with the exception of the curved line, of course, with a bunch of asymmetrical triangles attached to it. So if I isolated that shape without any of the triangles, it'd look something like this, which is a very simple thing to draw at this point, right? It's literally just two lines and a foot. Then as I add the triangles, which all represent something, of course, they aren't triangles for the sake of because I like triangles or whatever, you can see that we're building up to a drawing of a leg. Erase these lines within the form, and just like that, we have leg. Except this bottom bit is a little too long, so I just erase it and then raise it so it looks more like not a mutant's leg. And so basically all the same measurements that we made before apply even if we used this cheap trick / guideline in different positions and poses. In this example, you can watch as I try to use this idea to draw legs that aren't standing straight in a more typical dynamic pose. And I really didn't have to think too outside of the box, even though this trick is already outside of the box. You know, most of the measurements and things that I deduced from before work just the same here. So yes, very strange tip, but it's something that my brain latched onto for some reason, and it does help me establish a rhythm while maintaining a strong framework to go off of. This next visual bookmark is for drawing bent legs, and specifically bent legs where the upper and lower leg are touching each other, so as to say that they're all the way bent. So typically when I've gotten this far into drawing a bent leg, my next step from here would be to draw the lower thigh, but instead of going straight across from the crotch to the knee, I'll instead use an S-curve for the bottom of that thigh like this. Now what's so useful about this specifically is that where the S-curve approaches the knee, it creates this sort of circular pocket that the calf would sit in as the lower leg pushes up against the thigh. So the idea essentially is that if we have a straight line like this, the side of the line closest to the crotch will have a force that pushes down on it, and the side of the line closest to the knee will have a force that pushes up on it. This S-curve will then serve as a pretty accurate interpretation of the way that medial line there would curve as the upper and lower leg push up and down against each other. This is something that I'd certainly do whenever I'm drawing a figure whose legs are bent in a similar way. So at this point I draw that S-curve that comes from the crotch like this, always making sure that the side closest to the crotch has the force pushing down and the side closest to the knee pushes up, which would give me a pretty good guideline for placing the rest of the leg accurately according to that line. And of course this would be the exact same process for the other leg. Sometimes I'll even augment this trick to a slight C-curve with a strong hook at the end of it, and the hook in this instance will represent the calf muscle. And so altogether it would look something a bit like this, where that initial C-curve acts as the lower thigh, and that hook, again, is the calf muscle. I think in a general use case, I would use this particular line when I'm drawing a pose where the leg is bent but also raised up at the same time, like in this example. So for this leg, for instance, I'll put down that hook line that we just talked about, and I think that this line fits better for some reason when the leg is raised, but doesn't mean that it can't be used for when the leg is bent horizontally in a more neutral angle. And for the other leg, I'll just use an S-curve, and this is basically how I would use these two lines to draw bent legs in poses like these. And that is going to conclude this video on quick and cheap tricks for drawing legs, which leads me to a brand new end credit segment for my videos where I give thanks to my dear patrons for helping me live this art dream of mine and by answering some of their questions and comments that they've submitted, just like you can over at patreon.com/EmilioDecore. So Michael James wrote in and said, "So Emilio, what do you think of mustard on a hot dog? I get the feeling you have opinions." Well, thank you for writing in, James. And first of all, I have to say that mustard is a vile condiment and shouldn't be put on anything, let alone a Frank, quite frankly. Now, sometimes when I go to McDonald's, right, or whatever burger joint puts mustard on their burger, sometimes, they're going to fuck up my order, right? And I'll find mustard on my burger, and I'm going to have to be honest with you, I wipe the shit off. I don't want globs of mustard in my mouth. It's disgusting. However, when I wipe the shit off, there's still mustard residue in there, and the taste of this aforementioned mustard residue, there's a little tang in there. There's a little tang in the burger that it gives on top of the ketchup and all this other shit that they put on the burger. I get my burgers plain. That's neither here nor there, by the way. But so mustard, my general consensus, no, but occasionally, on the off chance, well, not an off chance, they're for sure gonna fuck my shit up. When I go to McDonald's or whatever, and they do mess up my order, and when I wipe it off, the lingering taste is, it's fine. I'll allow it. So thank you for writing in, Mike. And with that is going to be the super end of this video. Thanks again for watching as always. I hope you learned a thing or two about drawing legs with these weird ass tricks, and admittedly pretty cheap. And I'll talk to you next time.